Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Jonty Abbott, who's the Managing Director at Fluid. So firstly, Jonty, welcome and thank you for taking part. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Fluid and how you help people, that would be great.
Great, it's great to be here, Chris. Thanks very much for inviting me. So my name's Jonty Abbott. I've got a 25-year career history in delivering IT and IT solutions. I'm Managing Director of Fluid, and we work with ambitious medium-sized businesses who say things to us like, we've got great people, but we're worried that our systems or processes might be affecting their efficiency. We've got lots of data. We've got it in spreadsheets, we've got it in systems, we've got it on bits of paper, but we're struggling to harness it for meaningful insight into our performance. And we're doing things about it, but we're concerned that they might not be the priority next actions for us as a business.
Brilliant. I could see how valuable that would be. I mean, we work with sort of fast, rapid growth businesses in general, and I've seen how systems in general, even manual systems, need to be improved as a business grows, because what's fit for 1 to 5 to 10 won't be fit to 20, 30, 40 in it. And so I could totally get, and having a bit of a IT background going back a long way, I know how often systems are just get aged. I mean, you know, I always say to people, you can run let's say a CRM system on a spreadsheet till you get to about 100 entries or something like that, and then you need to do something else. It becomes totally useless. So brilliant. Oh, that's wonderful. So it'd be good to talk a bit more about that a bit later on. And perhaps before as we start, you could tell us a little bit more about your background. You mentioned obviously 25 years, how you got into business and why this particular one.
So so I came out of university in the mid-90s. I was working down in southwest and West London. I just fell into doing a number of IT related roles. So I think, you know, like a lot of graduates, sales is a good start. So I started at IT system sales, and then I kind of went through a number of different technical roles in that industry. But I mean, it was the mid-90s, you know, tech was getting really hot. You know, we were getting access to the internet, even in the office at our desks, which we hadn't previously had.
Yes.
The internet was taking off. We were riding the dot-com boom. We had the year 2K, which sort of drove a lot of business into IT companies. We were worried about planes dropping out of the sky because people would think computers would think it was 1900, not 2000. So it was a good industry to be in. There was a lot of businesses kind of growing during that time. I think the first company I worked for, we went from 150 people in about 1997 to over 1,500 by the year 2000. Wow,
that's some growth. That's some growth. And yeah, I remember. I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier, but I remember the year 2K. I had a software and IT consultancy, and we worked primarily in the power industry. And similar to planes dropping out to the sky, there was a lot of concerns about what would happen in some of the nuclear power stations at this point. And it was good for business. I can't honestly remember anywhere where we found anything that would have been particularly significant, but I think clearly the work needs to be done to check in those sort of circumstances.
Yeah.
So as you're growing up, I mean, is this the sort of thing you always thought you'd be doing, or did you have a different career plan?
So I think, you know, growing up, I was into playing computer games. I was into, you know, the BBC Micro. I'd got the Commodore 64. I don't think I'd realised that there was a career in technology and IT at that time. I was just enjoying consuming it. You know, I mean, actually, where I spent the majority of my time, you know, in my teens was music, reading The Enemy. A lot of people, I think, I joined a band. To be honest, Chris, I wasn't really thinking much further ahead at that time.
I totally get it. I mean, my kids are growing up now, and my daughter, one's in college, one's going to go in a couple of years, and I don't think, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do at 18, and you know, and we do actually make people decide quite early, don't we? And I think you should have a bit of a life experience potentially, and and decided our mid-20s or something when we've got a better idea of what floats our boat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I did realise was that I got involved with quite a bit of problem solving.
Yes.
You know, I got involved in a bit of leading, and
Yep.
you know, without realising it, those were probably some of the skills that I was laying down that I've utilised later in my career.
Yeah, you say that, I do remember, you know, I loved nothing more when I was developing software and helping other people to do it. It's that fixing that problem, wasn't it? It's let's you know, get to the grips of why this doesn't quite do what it's supposed to do. It's so rewarding when either you found it yourself or you helped somebody else found it. I think that was probably the leadership part of helping other people was really rewarding. So looking back, I mean, you've had quite a long career already. What are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome as an individual and as a business?
Yeah, okay. I think you know, if I talk about my own career first, I think you know, I worked a number of different roles in the IT industry, in technology, and you know, at Fluid we talk about T-shaped people, and the top of the T is your broad range of skill sets, and then you know, you've got like a specialism that comes off of that, which makes the base of the T. So I think I spent a long time developing the broad T across, probably longer than some of my colleagues. I found that frustrating at times that they'd got specialisms that were more highly rewarded. But you know, over time, I turned that into an advantage, because I think, you know, joining up that full life cycle of change in an organization, understanding, because I've been an end user, understanding how it feels to be a developer, someone that captures requirements, someone that tests software, someone that project manages projects, being able to understand the priorities of what all of those different skill sets need has helped to me as I've kind of become more senior in an organization, to be able to join them up and get the best out of them. But I think I had to wait a while to get that opportunity, to get that seniority. And then, you know, by starting my own business, got that at a stroke.
And I would imagine that would help your clients too, because you're seeing the breadth of the solutions rather than, you know, obviously I've worked with quite a few consultants myself, and, you know, that is the thing, the vertical specialism is the thing that engages them the most. But for a client, it's really, I don't really care about the individual things, it's that the whole thing works together.
That's right. And, you know, I think sometimes I think of change as a production line, you know, and you can only move as fast as the fastest moving, the slowest moving part of that production line. And really, you know, when I help organizations, I think about kind of walking that change production line, you know, virtually, and looking at where it's working well, where it's not working so well, and try to optimize, you know, each part for a kind of consistent throughput of delivery.
Brilliant. So do you have sort of quite a long customer life cycle where you're helping them as they develop themselves? Is it something, an ongoing activity?
Yeah, it would depend on the initiative. But I think, you know, developing a core set of skills is absolutely critical for any organization. I think somebody said it to me once. They said, if you've got software, you are a software company. And I think understanding the importance of having a core of software, digital, IT skills in any business is critical to the smooth running of that organization. I think the other approach that I like to take is the people, process, and then technology. And where that's done well, you know, you understand from the people how they would like to change their process for more efficiency, more quality, you know, for some benefit, and then look at how the technology can be applied to enable that. Because really, it's that benefit that you're trying to realize. And it's probably quite controversial for a technologist to say, but, you know, there's no value in a systems implementation, just putting something live. There's no inherent value in that. It's what your people do with it, or your customers do with it, where the value is. So that's the order in which we like to approach things.
Brilliant. And it makes absolute sense to me. I think it's too many times I've seen over time, both in my previous career, but also in business coaching, where it's almost expected that people have to adjust to fit the system rather than the system being adjusted to fit the people. And when we start changing how we do business purely to fit a system, there's got to be something a little bit wrong there.
Yeah, but I think, you know, there's a little bit of cost benefit analysis to do here, isn't there? And there might be some aspects of how we work which are standard or, you know, more usual, and we could benefit from standardizing them with a standard piece of software. And then there are other things that we do that are quite unique and kind of market leading, or, you know, unique to our organization, that give us competitive edge. Now, changing those processes could really be detrimental to our success.
Yes.
The processes and understanding where's our opportunity for standardization, but what do we need to protect, because that gives us our edge.
Brilliant. I absolutely, you know, couldn't agree more. If we change, and that by changing we degrade our points of difference, then we've got a real business challenge there. So that makes absolute perfect sense to me. So, you know, just looking back, what are some of the key things you've learned about business in general, about as you've grown and developed?
So I think one of the key things I've learned about business is that, you know, coming at it as an IT professional, you know, I've experienced that them and us. You know,
yes.
And even to such a regard as we refer to people outside of the IT department as the business, and people inside the IT department as the IT department. and really, you know, the best initiatives, the best projects, the most success I've ever had is when we've, you know, regarded ourselves as a combined team that are working in, you know, collaboratively together, and making those kind of cost benefit decisions, those, you know, understanding the overall effort that's required and the business outcome that's required. So I've seen that change and shift in my 25-year career, where it's no longer really acceptable to speak in technical terms that are not understandable to a business person. You know, really the language needs to be the business language.
Yes.
And that can kind of break that boundary. I mean, I've worked with, you know, SMEs recently, medium-sized businesses, who've referred to the IT department as like the Star Wars cantina. You know, you walk in there at your peril. And, you know, I really can resonate with that, you know, but really that's not how the modern IT department should be viewed. It should have a place at the top table. It should be inputting into business strategy, and really each, you know, functional area of a business should have a digital and IT strategy. It shouldn't be something over there. And you know, I see that quite a lot in businesses, where if there is a business strategy, it's over here in the business. And if there is an IT strategy, it's over there in the IT department. And then, you know, in between, there's a hope that one will support the other. And as a marvelous former colleague of mine, Dawn Redmond, she used to be head of customer service at Hermes, said to me, "Jonty, hope is not a strategy."
100%. 100%. And it's really interesting, because it brought it home to me, although obviously I have a little bit of background on this, but from a business perspective, I think I mentioned before we started the interview, was that I heard Sir Clive Woodward speak some time ago, and he was talking about his background in both sport and business. And one of the things he said, across the board, whoever wins in IT wins. And you know, we've got to embrace any business that's not embracing the technological advances that are available to them to help them do their work, do their business better, are going to be left behind. And we see too often businesses that just do what they've always done. There's a friend of mine coined a phrase. He said, "You've heard the phrase, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got." And he said, but actually it should be, if you always do what you've always done, your history. And unfortunately, we've seen, you know, we see regularly businesses that do that. I would suggest, you know, Woolworths, all I remember buying from Woolworths eventually was birthday cards and sweets. I think that was all, you know, and unfortunately with recently Debenhams, a very traditional store. What they did was perhaps potentially out of kilter with what people wanted moving forward. And we've got to continue it, innovate across a business, and obviously IT is at the heart of that.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And I think, we all understand that we need to do that, I think. But what we need in order to be able to have IT and IT strategy and business strategy working closely together is trust. And, one of the phrases that springs to mind for me is low trust slows everything.
Yep.
And if we're working in a high trust environment where we are delivering digital or IT enabled change that is incrementally successful, we build trust, and then we can be more proactive, more positive in our adoption of digital technology.
Yeah.
I understand if people have had a bad experience, why they might want to do less of it, but really you can have a good experience. So it's about seeking out that better experience and then understanding how to build on that.
Agreed. Absolutely makes sense. And yeah, trust is key, isn't it? Because if people believe that we're operating in their best interest, then we're already way ahead of the game, and that's the key. I think in anything we do is operate in the best interest of the people we serve. And if people understand that and sign on to that, then they're typically more open to the changes that are going to benefit them. And
you've said it there, Chris. It's people, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think people talk about business change as a competency, and as IT and digital becomes more enterprise level, you can less rely on that one person to influence your business. That one person that can represent your whole business,
yes,
understands your business, has a relationship with everybody in your business to go, trust me, this is the right next step. It might be difficult, and that's where competencies like business change, which really manage the expectation and the communication to the end user. Because look, the success of the software delivery, IT delivery, hangs on the user's adoption of it. So how much time as professionals are we spending ensuring that they are ready to adopt changes, and how much time are we actually just making the changes? And that depends on the organization, depends on the solution, and really some time spent planning for that is something that I do see some organizations kind of speed through a little bit too quickly. And they pay for that later in terms of low uptake on the new solution or a lower realization of benefits than they'd planned.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think you're probably aware we're a coaching organisation, a business coaching organisation, and we're keen to know who the best coaches that you've had you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I mean the one that really leaps out for me, I was really fortunate in that my father, kind of coached and mentored me throughout my life. Really believed in me and always encouraged me. I used to joke that he was almost the official non-exec of Fluid, because when my mum and dad had the kids on a Tuesday, I'd go around to pick them up, and then my dad would spend an hour kind of asking some great questions about what I was doing and give me good advice. So my dad, I was lucky that my dad provided that for me. And then I think, if I look back over my career, I can pick out a couple of people, a chap called Andy Pickett, when I was working at Whitbread Food Logistics, who must have seen something in me, probably saw something more than others had, or had an opportunity for himself to move up and wanted to pull me up and gave me more responsibility. So I think those people that pull you up, that create an environment where it's safe to fail, and you can kind of work in that kind of psychological safety. Those are the ones that have been the best coaches for me.
Brilliant, love it. Great story, especially about your dad and how that works, because it is often just questions. It's just how you're getting on, what could you do better. It's just having that. I love the phrase that I use a lot of coaching, which is an unreasonable friend. We want you to succeed, but we need to be unreasonable to help the other person find the best way forward.
Yeah, I love that, actually. Yeah, an unreasonable friend. I mean, sometimes it's about surrounding yourself with people who have similar goals but have a different idea about how to get there. You know, you want people to challenge you, because and actually it can make you feel quite awkward and maybe a bit grumpy. But that's when you learn much more, when somebody really kind of makes you stop and go, hang on, yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that before.
Yep.
Those moments are absolutely priceless.
I was listening to our founder only a couple of days ago, and he was telling the story of his father was his first mentor, and he was saying, I remember he was saying he said to his dad, he said, I just can't get good people. I can't, you can't get, and his dad just said, son, you get the people you deserve. And it was just wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. I think my dad said something similar. He said, you get what you negotiate.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's true. It is. We get what we're willing to accept often, and it's being unreasonable, I guess, with our surroundings. It's important, as well as obviously having people that are unreasonable with us. And Jonty, have you picked up any favorite quotes or sayings that you use on a regular basis at any particular point in time, whether in good times or challenging times?
I think we've already said a few, haven't we? And I really like the one that you mentioned about whoever wins in IT wins, from Clive Woodward. That's great. And I think low trust slows everything is a real favorite of mine. I'm just thinking back. I think when it comes to running a business and being an entrepreneur, and that's a label that I was uncomfortable with, and perhaps still doesn't sit quite right, being labeled an entrepreneur. But you really must enjoy the journey, is a favorite saying, and you must live in the moment, because it's a roller coaster running a business, and there are good times, there are more challenging times, but and you can be forgiven for thinking it'll be okay when that project's finished, we hit that target. But once you get there, you just set yourself new goals. So enjoying the journey, enjoying those, and enjoying when it's challenging, and rolling your sleeves up and thinking, right, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to get over this? Those are the things. So yeah, I'll go with enjoy the journey. Brilliant.
No, I love it. It is the number one reason I became a business coach, was to help people enjoy growing the business, not just tolerate it. I think there's an expectation, I'll put up with all this crap, and then eventually, the success comes. But gee, if we enjoy the journey, actually we get there firstly happier, but also probably more effectively and more quickly, because if I'm enjoying it and I help other people enjoy it. So I think that's absolutely key, and bang on. And what would you say you've learned about yourself through your career?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I've really learned about myself is I have to be careful about what I commit to, and this really actually, I'm over 45, so this learning has really come late in my kind of 25-year career thus far. But I do have to be careful about what I commit to, because once I've committed to something, I have to see it through. So, despite the toll it might take on me, despite the fact that, I might spread myself too thin, I've got to make a great job of it, and I've got to finish it off. So I think one of the things that I've really learned about myself is be careful what I commit to. Spend a bit more time considering it before I do it, because once I'm in 100%. And have to make a success of it.
There's a guy called Paul Dunn, I think. Paul Dunn, that's right, he's Australian. I know he lives in Singapore now, from memory. But he's got, I remember he was saying he's got this, I think acronym's a word, but it's KWTSNT. And he writes that down. And the story goes, he's got it sort of on his whiteboard behind him. And he was having a conversation with somebody, and it wasn't going anywhere, and it was quite challenging. And then the other guy said, "What's the acronym?" And he says, "Knowing who or what to say no to."
Yeah.
And he literally said, "And you're one of them," and sort of went, "Goodbye." So, I mean, I'm not sort of mandating that, but it's great. It's a great point. It is a skill to know who or what to say no to, isn't it? And
it's a great word, isn't it? No. And I think perhaps socially, culturally, we're predisposed to always want to say yes, and we have to become brave and have the courage to say no. And so we can do the best job of the stuff we've said yes to.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it really is. And I find this working with business owners, business leaders, is there's often a desire to help to help people. It's like they're challenging, I've got to help them, but it's changing that identity to say actually that's their job, and they need to sort that out with some help. But also, if we're, the analogy I like to use is, if we're on a ship and we're helping them pull up the anchor or set the sails, they're wondering who's steering the ship, because that's our job. And absolutely being willing to, when absolutely necessary, to get stuck in a roll of sleeves up, that is almost a gimme. But our job is different to what it might have been 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Our job is now to be steering the ship, and that's what people want us to do. Because if we're not doing it, then it could be it could be a challenge. It's interesting you saying about problems. I was told a long time ago that the job of a business owner is to solve problems. And if you therefore don't like problems, probably get out of business, because problems, come at, and what I've believed from that, Jonty, moving forward, was that actually problems and more problems are typically a function of growth. So problems are to be engaged if growth is our plan. It's almost like if we don't have any problems, we're probably not changing. And it's helped me have that address of, this is a problem. Brilliant. In fact, my coach helped me with that, because I remember him saying, I was like, this is just, we all get those times where we're not quite sure how we're going to get through it. And he said, brilliant, we're about to break through. And that's helped me a lot over time, to embrace problems, however challenging they are at a particular point in time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I'm minded of, it's the problems you can anticipate, but then it's the problems that you can't. And, I'm minded of a talk I went to with Seb Coe, and he was talking about the London Olympics and the planning for that. And he was talking about risk and risk mitigation. And, he said that you can't anticipate all of the problems that you will encounter during your business life, a project, initiative. You can't plan that mitigation for every single one, but what you can do is build a great team. And when you've got a great team, and that could be people working for you, people in your team, people in your supplier partner base, having that great team, and to roll their sleeves up when something that we can't anticipate happens, which always happens. Yes, we can anticipate that. Then if you've got a great team, if you've got high trust, if they understand what the common goal is, if they can work autonomously and come back to you with solutions, then you've got the greatest risk mitigation there is.
Absolutely. I think it's going back to Clive Woolford again. He's got this teacup principle, which stands for think correctly under pressure. And I think he believes it. He talks about it being sort of almost a trained skill to think correctly under pressure. That there are things you can teach yourself to. And I guess the first one is not, probably not to panic. It is to. I often use the phrase that I love, which is slow down to speed up. And it feels totally counterintuitive when everything's flying around. We're up to neck in muck and bullets. But slowing down is often the quickest way to actually find the solution. However difficult it is when everybody wants a piece of us and everybody wants some of our time and everything's going on. So
I couldn't agree more with that. Actually, that being able to kind of take a step back and take stock, move more slowly to go faster. Absolutely.
It really is, and it's something we do a lot with people. It's even in the midst of the most challenging times, the best thing we can do is take some downtime and get out, literally get out of the situation. However much, again, being the leader, we feel we perhaps should be in the middle of it. Sometimes we do need people around. If we've got other people around us who can do it, great. But if not, somebody needs to take a step back, because sometimes there's a really easy solution, and it's like we're working really, really hard to try and make this solution work, and just taking a step back and say, well, actually, there's an easy way through here.
I mean, objectivity is a fantastic thing, isn't it? And
yes.
What it's also made me think of is that, as the MD of Fluid, as a business leader, as I took on that position, something happened to me which hadn't happened previously in my career. This is the first business I've run, been running it for nearly 10 years now. It can feel, and I know it's like an old adage, but lonely at the top. It can feel a bit like that. And there are certain things that you want to share with your team and with your co-directors and your team below. And there are other things that are considerations that you've got that aren't appropriate to share with them at that time. So who do you share them with? And that's where you look for a support structure actually outside of your own business. And you talk to similar leaders, you talk to coaches like yourself, where you kind of, you play those thoughts out and you get a better, more holistic kind of appreciation of them, and you prioritize them in your own mind. And certainly as the business has grown, as I've grown, I've looked for more support outside my organization than I'd anticipated I'd need.
Yes, I think a lot of people see it as a sign of weakness, but it's in fact a sign of strength, in my opinion, because, you know, if you look at any high performer in pretty much any industry or sport or anything, they will have a coach or set of coaches that help them. And, you know, and the job is not to be better than them, it's just to help them be the best they can be. And it really works. I heard a story that, and this is probably only a story, but apparently somebody asked Usain Bolt why he had coaches. Obviously, if you can run that fast, why do you need anyone else? And he said, well, obviously one of them helps me with all the techniques I need to be able. They can't run fast with me. But then he said, and then one of them just helps me stop eating chicken McNuggets, which is also a valuable thing to do, I guess, if you're him. So I'm really keen to think about looking forward, Jonty, and what does the future look like for yourself and Fluid, and what are some of the challenges you might face, if any?
Yeah, so I think right now, obviously, the current economic outlook is at the forefront of all business thinking. I'm interested with the announcement of the new Prime Minister today, and perhaps different policy on energy. That's going to be really interesting. So I think my clients, my customers, and my partners are thinking about how to navigate the rising energy costs and the supply chain challenges that we've inherited from the pandemic over the last couple of years. So I'm thinking about how can I help them to navigate those big decisions that they're always. I'm looking to be able to reassure them that investing in digital is as important as ever, if not more important now. And then finally, I'm thinking, as I kind of working with medium-sized businesses and embracing, technology and IT as a value center, how can I convince them that the value that tech can deliver shouldn't be measured in, that kind of physical software implementation or system implementation, or in fact, the rolling out of new features or functionality, but actually in what is enabling them to do, their people to be able to do, to outperform their competition.
Brilliant. That makes a lot of sense, and I think I can totally understand that whole piece about it being an investment, not a cost. IT and systems to support what we do has got to be an investment, and if we don't invest, we typically, we're going to be behind the curve, and it's the businesses behind the curve that will struggle most in a recession. So I think I totally understand that you bang on.
I think it's understanding what's optimal for a business, and too many software solutions can be kind of too broad and all-encompassing. And really, I think, to use another kind of well-trodden adage, Pareto's law, I really do believe that 20% of the change can hit 80% of the value. So why are we attempting to make 100% of the change? So, with some careful thought, with some bringing that business and IT strategy together and not having the hope in the middle that we talked about earlier, you really can optimize your IT digital technical investment for the biggest return. But you need to spend some time thinking about it first. You can't just jump in. And some solutions are just too broad. And how can you chop that up and hit the highest value areas first? Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And I guess that's where you come in, isn't it? To add that knowledge and skill set and expertise. And just two or three questions before we close. What would you say to anyone that's thinking of going into business right now?
I think Chris, if you're thinking about it, you should go for it. I think the fact that you're thinking about it is telling you something. Now I can be accused of mulling things over quite significantly. An old ex-colleague of mine said to me once, Jonty, you couldn't mull that over anymore if you were drinking mulled wine on the Isle of Mull, listening to Mull of Kintyre. So I think the fact that you keep coming back to something is probably time to act. So if you've got an idea to do something differently or ultimately better, then go for it.
Brilliant. Love it. And if you started again, is there anything that you think you'd do differently?
I think, you know, I've spent some time in some of the business incubators. I was fortunate enough to get onto the NatWest Accelerator.
Right.
And you know, that was after several years of kind of starting the business. I think what I learned in that and has been valuable in our growth since then, I'd be more specific, sorry, in articulating, you know, our product and the value. I'd test how to describe it, you know, because quite often, and particularly in technology, how we describe what we do is not what the business out there that need our services are describing it as. And I'd learned the elevator pitch for my business. I'd try to hone it in 10 seconds, in 30 seconds. 30 seconds is what I used at the start of our, you know, to introduce us in this chat, and get loads of feedback. Lots of feedback. It's testing it and listening and adapting, you know, on the feedback that you get.
Brilliant. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you're able to go back in time and do so?
I mean, I got this question before, Chris. I spent quite a lot of time thinking about it. I think definitely one is, don't do a gig the night before your economics A-level final exam. That would be some very specific advice for 18-year-old me. So I think more broadly, I don't really have any regrets. You know, I don't really believe in regrets. I feel that every experience that you have, you know, enables you to be the person that you're going to be. I think perhaps I'd go back to my mulling things over and say, you know, perhaps go with my instincts a bit quicker, and test them out. But find a good way of testing them out. Find that safe place. And, you know, I think risk is an interesting thing. I think everybody can take risks. It's just what they need to put in place to take those risks. And then particularly working with colleagues, you know, somebody might be more risk averse than somebody else. But if you can give them what they need to take the risk, which might be different to you, then you can all step forward at the same time. And I've seen that a lot in kind of in Fluid and how we progress. We've got 4 co-directors, 4 co-owners, and we all have different appetites for risk. But if we can equalize the mitigation, which is different for each of us, then we're ready to step forward together.
It's a great thing when you've got that difference, because that creates balance. It's if we're all the same, then we run the risk of making either the very quick risky decision, or even the reverse, the very slow non-risky decision we should have made 2 years ago. And having that balance between partners is I find so valuable, because it's very difficult to be right all the time by ourselves.
Completely. And I think, you know, building that trusted environment where you can air those concerns freely and in confidence, and then we work together on them is critical to moving forward together. Brilliant.
Well, Jonty, thank you so much. You've been absolutely fascinating, and I you know, really fascinating. Clearly, you know, hopefully we'll be able to talk more further about how you might be able to help some of my clients, because we have fast-moving companies all the time that need to understand a bit more how IT systems and services can help them. If anybody wanted to contact you, anyone watching this today, contact you or Fluid, what would be the best way to do that?
I'd love to hear from anybody who's you know, considering IT change, technical enabled change, or has a project that's overrunning, would like to ask me any questions. I think the best way to contact me would be via the Fluid website, which is fluiditconsulting.co.uk, or you can email me directly at jonty.abbott@fluiditconsulting.co.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jonty. And I'm surprised there could come in many IT projects are overrunning out there. That's
it is surprising, considering how long we've been doing them now, how long we've been doing projects. I think there's statistics out there that say something like 70 to 80% of software projects fail. Now, that's not to say that they don't complete, but some aspect of them doesn't deliver. And I think if we take a more constructive, experienced approach, we can de-risk those initiatives and make them more successful.
And I guess it's going back to the 80-20, isn't it? It's let's get the real value for a lower level of investment and change, and then look at the last 20% that's going to require 80% of that investment and change.
Absolutely, yeah, and build some momentum, build some successes, and get everybody. Software implementation can be a fantastic catalyst to kind of get organizations embracing change. And to go back to something that you talked about earlier, is that if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. Whoever wins in IT wins. So let's embrace it. Let's do it often and get good at it.
Brilliant. On that note, thank you so much, Jonty.
Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Brilliant.